this is a pet peeve of mine. People say all the time, well, I don't do marketing because I don't like to be salesy or sell, you know. And I'm like, okay, well, if you don't like to be salesy, then just do your marketing non-salesy.
Right.
It's kind of like the most obvious thing, if you don't like to be salesy, then stop creating social posts that come off as self-promoting salesy and, look like spam. Don't, pump out your products and services and try and shove them down people's throats. Of course that comes off as annoying. But people say, oh, marketing's annoying. No, you're annoying. It's not marketing. Marketing can also be beautiful and helpful and engaging and be of service.
Hi, everyone. This is David Paull. On this episode, I'm talking with Priscilla McKinney, CEO of Little Bird Marketing and host of the podcast Ponderings from the Perch. In addition to being a world-class marketer and cultural anthropologist, Priscilla has carved out a niche for Little Bird Marketing in helping market research companies reach their full potential. In this conversation, Priscilla and I discuss the significance of defining and understanding your client's persona, how to ensure your content marketing goes from broadcasting to engaging, the importance of having a clearly defined process behind everything you do, the value of learning from your own mistakes, where Priscilla draws an example from her own experience, and a lot more. Priscilla is as genuine and practical as they come, and I learned a ton from talking with her. Let's listen. Hey, Priscilla, thanks so much for joining us today.
David, this is going to be so fun. Rarely do podcasters get to be with podcasters, so we're already up at the pro level.
So for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background and what you have going on.
Yeah, well, I've had the privilege of working in the last several years in the market research industry, but I have a digital lead generation marketing firm. And for the past 10 years, we have really honed in on our expertise about how people really target their most ideal client and build a strategy completely around their purpose, who they serve well, and how they can engage with them on just a very deep and very profitable level. And along my journey, I've been privileged to get to have an insider's view now into market research, but my background originally is cultural anthropology. So by the time I had all my marketing expertise and I was dumped into the market research industry, I was like, yeah, these are my people. This is cool. So now about 40% of the clients that we have are related in some way to market research here at Little Bird Marketing. And then I'm also the owner of Clear Marketing, which we acquired this year. And that's really more of a B2C house. But here at Little Bird, every day, day in and day out, we're concerned with how do we create sustainable systems for firm lead generation for our clients.
Yeah, well, lead gen is a great mission. I mean, that's the top of the funnel. And not only is it what's so critically important, but it's what a lot of, especially B2B firms tend to struggle with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, it's that kind of sales yelling at marketing yelling at sales conundrum that we're in. And it's really about, putting those two things together. And then even if some companies put it together, sometimes they put it together without having done strategy first. So there really has to be that underlying strategy, and then you can start bringing departments in together to really, move the needle and profit.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you end up landing so much of your work in the market research space?
Well, you guys have been just really gracious to me and just keep asking me. But I was asked first to speak at a Green Book event. And I didn't know who Green Book was at the time. And ever since then, I just keep getting asked back. I get great reviews as a speaker. So that's really, really kind. But I think part of that is because I'm very practical. I'm very to the point. And I very much want people to understand the difference of just walking out and bragging and just talking about our company does this. We're so great. We're a special snowflake. And instead helping steer people to understand, how do you serve someone? How do you engage someone? How do you become that company, that service that everybody's attracted to? And I think those words I spoke at the beginning, that's really where I come from in marketing, my expertise. Once I started speaking those words into the market research industry, the reality is they were all very hungry for that truth. And they have really appreciated a refreshing view of it. I have a pretty no-nonsense approach to marketing and strategy. And along the way, of course, we make it fun. And I think anytime you can be truly engaging, be truly personal, it does become fun.
For sure. So, I mean, use the word attraction, which I love, but don't hear nearly as often as I'd like to in this space. So let's talk a little bit about your philosophy around, especially in B2B, which are most of the listeners of this podcast, your philosophy around attracting companies to what it is that you have to offer, and putting together that strategy and that system. Where does it all begin?
Well, I liken a lot of what I have to say about what we know about cocktail parties. In our own personal lives, we know that you go into a cocktail party and you don't walk in and start, yelling, "I'm the greatest, I'm so amazing, this is how special I am, and these are all the things I know how to do, and this is how long I've been doing them. Let me tell you about my birthday, and hey, by the way, does anyone want to go home with me tonight?" But this is what is so interesting. We know not to do that socially. We know not to do that in our own personal lives. But yet that is exactly what we do when we think we are doing quote unquote marketing. We come into the office and be like, we got to go out and tell everybody what we do. We need to make sure they know our features. We know our benefits. We know this is what we do. This is how long we've been in business. This is, these are the awards what we've gotten. And hey, here's a call to action in your face. Like, I just connected with you on LinkedIn and here's the things that I do. Can you ask me in and can we meet this Thursday?
I'm exhausted just listening to that. It sounds
seriously, aren't you? And that's what we need. We need people to be exhausted and being sick and tired of that. And then they need to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's when we can make a shift in marketing and actually move towards concepts of attraction. And you're right. I love that word attraction, because if we liken that also to cocktail parties, who are you attracted to in that cocktail party? The person over in the corner, who knows their stuff. You walk up and the first thing they do is they ask about you. Because you know what people like to talk about? Themselves. Yep. And that's a part of attraction. And then, we want that person to do a couple of things. We want them to be a great asker. We want them to be a great listener. And we also want them to be a great helper. You present some kind of a problem. We don't want them to rush in and solve. But we want people to say, "Oh, well, had you considered this?" Or, "Oh, that is so interesting. I know Bob over here and he can solve that problem for you." Or maybe he can't solve it. Or maybe, I know Bob and he's very good at asking other questions. Let me go get him. And let's see if the three of us can figure out it. All of a sudden now, instead of being just exhausted and kind of offended, now I'm like, wow, I'm attracted and I am grateful. And this is the root of engagement. And so I know that, somebody at the head of a marketing firm much larger than mine might have made it more complicated than that. But marketing, and attraction is truly that simple. It's following the rules that we all know, to be true in society, and bringing those in, but then bringing them into a process so that we don't miss all the opportunities. But the underlying, mindset has to be, how can I serve? How can I attract? How can I engage?
And you mentioned how bigger firms especially can tend to make things more complicated. And I think very often that's also a way to justify their existence and try to wrap everything that they do up into something really big and complex. But at the end of the day, simple wins. And simple doesn't mean easy. Those are very different things. But simple absolutely wins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a system here, our IP of how we go about doing everything is called SOAR. And, I bring it up just to tell you this: no matter what you do, you choose our system or choose something else. Here's what you can take today and understand from it. Whatever you do, make sure it's S, it's strategic. Make sure it's O, it's organized. Make sure A, it's accountable. Every action that you do has to be accountable to the S and the O. And then R, then repeat. So get the repetition in the right order. I feel like a lot of them come out the gate like, let's do this, worked in the past, let's do that. Whoa. So it doesn't matter. Take Little Bird Marketing off the table. Just think today about, what could win for your marketing strategy. Get strategic, get organized, get accountable, and then get repeatable.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great way to think about it. Can you take us through a little bit of how you take your own medicine when you're developing your marketing strategy for Little Bird and you're deploying something new, let's say, or something that you've tried recently? What's the process that you go through, and what types of things do you find in the end tend to be most effective versus where you'll look back and say, yeah, that didn't work, and frankly, we probably should have known better?
I love it. Well, first of all, I will say we treat Little Bird Marketing as one of our clients. So to my employees, I am one of their clients.
Hmm.
And we use the exact same project management board. We use the exact same source system. We do not take shortcuts on our own marketing. So much so, then when someone says, hey, I have a great idea, blah, 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 and someone will say, we're a bunch of creatives. Of course, we always have great ideas. And then
Hmm.
someone's like, oh, great, that's a great idea. Okay, everybody take a deep breath. So how is that accountable to our strategy? And how are we going to organize that? And, and then we're off to the races. And everybody makes us, take our own medicine. I like the way you put it that way. So first of all, we are on our project management board with due dates, with faces, on our project management board. We keep to our structure. We write the blogs that we say we're going to write. We use the content we say we're going to write. So let me tell you about a failure that I think really more depicts what needs to be done and why I think it's so important for us, to be taking our own medicine. Because you look at a lot of marketing companies and they don't take their own medicine and they don't do marketing for themselves well. And I think that's a real travesty.
Hmm.
So the first thing I'll say about that is, well, I guess the first thing I said was that we treat ourselves like it. But the next thing was a failure that we had that really made it crystal clear to me. We had, this is about 2 years ago, we had, a couple of clients that, man, we were so excited about. We connected. I felt as the owner to owner, we connected. I knew they needed us. I knew what we had to offer was so invaluable. And things went poorly. And in fact, we had 2 or 3 that went poorly, and we could not figure out why. This is, and so we had a lot of discussions around this. We had a lot of frustration. Of course, it's easy to go to blame the client and say, well, they didn't get back to us with this. They don't do this. Why don't they don't value this? They don't understand how long this date, whatever it is that you think that you're so special and, and why it's not working. But I pulled the team together. I'm like, no, we are going to solve this. You don't have it happen twice. You don't have it happen 3 times unless there is something absolutely wrong in our strategy. And oh my goodness, we just took ourselves all the way to the front of our strategy and redid it. And this is what was so telling. We had the wrong persona in mind. And I mean, for me to say that to you on a podcast, we are absolutely 100% known as a leading agency in persona development.
Hmm.
So the irony of this was just not lost on me. And the big lesson that I've learned there is that when we were a smaller company, our target ideal client was the CEO. We are not playing at that level anymore. We actually do not want to be working with the CEO, founder, or owner. We identified in that our systems now are much larger, our solutions are much more robust, and we should not be working with the CEO on a regular basis. They may make the decision to hire us, to pay us. They may, it's their money, but we should not be either marketing to or solving with the actual CEO. And so we realized through the whole process, we developed another persona into, to add an arrow to our quiver. And it is what we call C-suite Stacy. She's very loyal. She's very connected to the company. She feels like the company's success is her own personal success. And so she cares very deeply, but she does not have that subjective, cradling of the baby that is the company. And so she can think objectively about what needs to be done. And she also is a connector. She can bring people together and help us really find solutions. So the big lesson for me is that, absolutely, number one, the biggest piece of strategy is to have done your buyer persona and know who you're selling to, but also remember that as your company grows, as your competency grows, as your solutions grow, so sometimes does your perfect ideal audience. And so you must revisit this on a normal schedule to ask yourselves again, are we really writing to the right person? Are we putting our absolute best content out there in order to solve either emerging or persisting problems for this person?
I think that's amazing advice, and personas are so very important. I remember when I heard you speak at IIEX, you talked about personas and even the process that you go through for developing those personas. And it sounds like you take that medicine internally and do that for yourselves, as well as the way you advise and coach your clients to do it.
For sure. And it's never perfect. It's always evolving. And in fact, so much so now that I have that calendarized because I learned you have to change. You have to change as your company grows and changes, then also your end client changes. And I think, we can conceive of that with products. Like, okay, this product change, you'll have some products out there that, where someone might have an application and they use it. It's your audience as an old person. And then, of course, then Gen Zs come up and they're like, oh yeah, we buy these things and we use them this way, and they've morphed the way that they use, something you've taken to market. It's kind of like hush puppies. Do you remember at the beginning of the Tipping Point book from Malcolm Gladwell?
Yep.
He talked about how, the tipping point, how hush puppies had a huge resurgence. That is probably the best example of what happens sometimes. So hush puppies, all the ads are, geared towards very sensible people and older people, and people are buying shoes that should last for children who need to be in lasting shoes. This is their persona. And all of a sudden, no, it's clubbers.
Right.
And they're forced to really evaluate, why did we have an upsurge in our, brand and product. And now we have an entirely different ideal persona.
And that's where the research comes so heavily into play as well, is not just hypothesizing what do we think the persona is we have to go after, but really properly researching and understanding what is the makeup of this particular type of person, and how elastic and nimble do we have to be with it in order to have it, fit into the market so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel with every client, right?
Right, for sure. And to take this a step further, I also see, when I really see what problems, companies are having with their marketing and with their sales, at the very bottom of it, I see that they don't have proper persona work done. And some of the symptoms that I see out there, like, for example, when someone comes to me and then they admit that they have someone running social media who is either an intern, someone's niece, or, is the lowest person on the totem pole in the office. And I just think, oh, that's because you have not done persona work. You don't really respect people's time. You don't really respect who it is that you're engaging with, or when I start hearing or seeing things when we're doing strategy, where I realize that they're really actually have been ghosting people who are engaging with them, or they do this, they don't know what's been working. And it's what we call here post and pray.
Right. I love that.
We'll put this post out there and just, pray that, a big following happens, and, this kind of thing. Or they build things or create products, or, and whether it's a website or it's a product or a service, oh, this is the new package. And they build it and say, well, if we build it, they'll come, just like all of these things to me that I hear that are real problems that we solve in the market. They're all things that in the end show me that the very bottom of all marketing strategy and sales strategy has not been catered around the ideal client persona and around their real needs, wants, desires, emerging or persisting problems.
And you said something that I'm really interested in getting your further take on regarding post and pray, and the fact that social media is often just handled as anyone can post to Twitter, anyone can throw up a Facebook post. I often find, more than often, I almost always find that the notions of content marketing and social media tend to just get thrown into a blender together and mashed up as this one thing. Well, we create content and we put it up on social media, and they go hand in hand. But I think, I'm sure you agree, and I'd love to hear the way you talk about it, the notion of a content marketing strategy, and then separately, what's your social media strategy and how do you use those channels, are really two different things. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, these are big deals. And Dave, you work so much in the whole concept of engaging and engagement. So we have to always keep that as the banner that is flying up there, right? Because we're not in the business of broadcasting, we're in the business of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So what I find is that people, when they come to us, they are stuck somewhere. Some of them are stuck at the very beginning, meaning they're like, yeah, we just haven't tackled it. We think we're too late to the party. We don't even have a blog. We don't even, so some people are stuck at the beginning. We don't know what to do. But I think what is more often, and which is actually very interesting and actually very difficult to untangle, are the people who are stuck in the middle. They are busy creating content. They're busy posting. They are busy creating the next webinar, whatever it is. They are making lists and checking it off,
Mm-hmm.
but nothing is working and nothing is moving. And so they turn around and say, social media doesn't work. Content marketing doesn't work. Lead generation doesn't work. Whatever it is, webinars don't work. I don't care. Insert whatever it is. It's not that those things don't work. Some of them may be appropriate for your business and some may not be appropriate based on what we're trying to do. It's not that those don't work. It's that there's no underlying strategy or unifying maybe, mindsets around why we're doing what we're doing. And that's why I kind of come back to your banner, which is, it has the words engagement across it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
we have to remind ourselves, and I know it sounds simple, but I know that when I'm saying something simple, I know I'm onto something. It's not about getting shit done when it comes to content and social. It's about getting meaningful and engaging shit done. I know that, we are a production house. We do get things out the door. And so we joke around and say, hey, get shit done. That's great. But we have to always remember that the most dangerous thing that we could be doing is just getting it done and checking off the list and going through the motions. It absolutely has to be humanizing. And even to the point, I find it totally ironic, even when we use chatbots, the only reason we are using chatbots is to try and humanize the process, which I know it's an irony, but it's not, people come to us and they want to, like, well, we heard, we tried these things. And so now we heard, we could do this on LinkedIn, or we could, use this chatbot on Facebook, or we could, it's just all insert the new trend, whatever it is that so-and-so is doing this. But the problem with those things, with mimicking, is that so-and-so may be doing that, but so-and-so may be losing their shorts on doing that. It may not be turning a profit for them. It may not be creating lead gen for them. So just because your competitor is doing it doesn't mean you need to be doing it too. You need to be doing it for your own reasons. And above all else, is this going to be engaging? And so before we press send on any content, we think, does our intended audience care about what we're about ready to post?
Mm-hmm.
And that will move us off this broadcast mentality and into serving and into engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And it does need to have an underlying agreement that we care and that we're helping. And I talk about this a lot. You and I are both friends with Kristen Luck. We joke around all the time about the old mentality, Zig Ziglar, always be selling, sell, 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 but the new age of content marketing has begun. And for any kind of content or social media strategy, what it means is always be helping.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not be the best solution for this, client. Certainly we want to target the people that we think we are the best solution for. But what we have to do is get in our brains that we are here to help and to serve our ideal client persona. And if we do that, and if we hold all of our motivations and all of our tasks captive to that concept, we will be rewarded with firm and sustainable lead generation process.
What do you wish was just very frankly being discussed more in this space, and that was more openly on the table, and that nobody was skirting around, and was really just being discussed and debated and just hammered on over and over and over again? That really just either is a constant misconception, or just really doesn't get talked about, and it's the elephant in the room that everybody's just ignoring.
Well, gosh, I think the elephant in the room is kind of what I say about the cocktail party. I don't think that companies get honest about the fact that they walk in and say in the first 3 minutes of a conversation, do you want to sleep with me? That's
Right.
what they're doing when they connect with someone and then immediately jump to, can I demo this? Or, can you meet on Thursday? Or this is what I do. 1, 2, 3. This is what our company solves. What do you think? It's like, here's my system. Can you please jump into it? Can you? And it's like, man, you don't even want to work for it.
Or someone connects with you on LinkedIn and 30 seconds later you get a message pitching everything that they do, and would you like to have a call to talk about it?
And it's so disingenuous and none of us like it. And I think you were there the day I asked. So please raise your hand if you are planning to go this weekend and go to a used car lot, just to look around and you're not in the market, but you just want to go there because you love the way that you just get sold from the moment that you walk on.
Right.
And everybody's just staring at me like, of course we don't want to do that with our time. But we come into our roles and start doing marketing and act like that's going to work. People
Yeah.
don't like to be sold. And this is a pet peeve of mine. People say all the time, well, I don't do marketing because I don't like to be salesy or sell. And I'm like, okay, well, if you don't like to be salesy, then just do your marketing non-salesy.
Right.
It's kind of like the most obvious thing. If you don't like to be salesy, then stop creating social posts that come off as self-promoting salesy and, are look like spam. Don't,
Yeah.
Pump out your products and services and try and shove them down people's throats. Of course that comes off as annoying, but people say, oh, marketing's annoying. No, you're annoying. It's not marketing. Marketing can also be beautiful and helpful and engaging and be of service. And
Yeah.
I know that there are times when I have been contacted by someone and they say, hey, what are the biggest problems, you're facing? Now, they can't say that in the first 3 minutes of meeting me because that's very forward. But they could engage with me. Hey, I saw you speaking at this thing. This is so interesting. What do you think about this? And start a conversation. People, connect with me on LinkedIn and I write back to them. I'm sure they're shocked. I write back and say, sounds great. Would love to connect. What do you think we should talk about? Or sometimes when I see that and I can see them a mile away, I know they're just connecting with me either to get to my other contacts or they're connecting to me because I'm about to get the sales pitch and they want to connect and their, LinkedIn message to me at the beginning will be basically, I want to see this. And someone even wrote to me is like, well, what is the biggest thing you have to solve for Little Bird this month, this year? And I'm like, I wrote back to him. I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's incredibly forward. I share that with my close, circle of friends. I'm not out of the blue going to just take a message from someone else and lay out my plans of what it is that I'm trying to tackle for a little. Why would I do that? It makes no sense. And so people just make marketing like it's just so complicated, but honestly, they just need to stop doing behavior that they would not want done to them. It's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it does not respect people. And when people are respected, they give respect back. I believe that respect is reciprocal by nature. And so I think if we go into marketing and go into content in a way that respects other people's time, respect other people's, thought processes, it respects that people have problems, then we receive that respect back in spades. And so I guess my biggest thing that I feel like is not being discussed is that, people keep wanting to put, a bigger, the problem's out there, it's X. No, the problem's just us right here. This is what we need to solve and we need to do it better. And we need to think through our process and we need to solve for what we bring into marketing and rethink what it is we want to do. So that's to me kind of the elephant in the room. And sometimes, people don't like me saying that. And if you look on my LinkedIn, instead of having the role of CEO of my company, it says that I'm an annoying truth teller who's powered by my husband's bread. And that's the truth. If you don't want annoying, truth bombs, then you really should not reach out to me.
I think that's great. You know what you're going to get. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
every time that we've met and we've talked, you wear exactly who you are on your sleeve. There's
Mm-hmm.
no pretense.
Mm-hmm.
And like we talked about earlier, you don't make things overly complicated. You down to the simple. The simplest solution is usually the right one.
Mm-hmm.
And the strategies and tactics around that in order to execute.
Right. And the second biggest thing, I would agree with what you said earlier, which is, and simple is not easy. Simple is incredibly hard. And
Mm-hmm.
simple, though, is a belief system that has to be honored. And so we are incredibly, the number two thing here is that we are then incredibly process oriented. How do we create a process and a system that holds us accountable to that? And I say 100%, I say it all the time to people. Um, I do not believe putting pressure on people. I believe in putting pressure on systems. So that is about the way I treat my employees. That is about the way I treat my clients. That is how I treat my clients' employees. That is how I treat, our end users, who are humans, by the way, no matter if you want to call them end users or consumers or clients or whatever, they are humans who are engaging with our products and services, and they need help. And so this idea of, I am not going to then create an environment where we're putting pressure on each other. We're going to agree about what needs to be done, and we're going to build a system, and then we're going to put the pressure on the system to work. And whenever we have a problem, we're going to stop and we're going to ask ourselves, okay, what system could we put in place that would keep this from happening? Just for example, go back to my big failure. What system, Priscilla, would need to be put in place so that you don't have to remember to check onto your personas and see if that's what's going? No, every year now, we do a once over and say, is this still who we serve? And is this still who we serve best? And so now I'd have no pressure. It's not my fault in that sense that it failed. Like, it was just an amazing learning. And so now I don't have to worry about that problem again, because we are going to revisit our personas on a regular basis, lesson learned. And now there's no pressure on me or pressure on my team to remind me to do it. No, it's in the calendar, and that's what's going to be done. And so that is, keep it simple, but put a system in place that maintains that simplicity.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating point. And honestly, I've never really thought about it that way. But as you're talking, and I'm thinking about even the various pressures that I'm feeling today or right now, or members of my team are feeling, those can really all be mapped to a breakdown in or lack of some kind of a process. And when those
Yes.
processes are in place, then you said it perfectly. The process bears the pressure, and those executing are really just following along a process that's been well thought out and well executed.
Oh, for sure. And okay, let's talk about market research world and how this applies. Okay. So I'm going to take your industry. Everybody spends so much money on trade shows, and yet also has so much consternation and stress and just a confusion regarding trade shows. And I cannot tell you how many large companies I've come in and worked with only to find that they go, yeah, we go to that show. I'm like, yeah, I know you go. What's the plan? What's the strategy? Oh, well, we usually do this, this, that. And there's some rough outline in somebody's head about what we do. I'm like, why would you do that to yourself every time? And I can't even tell you how many times, Freebie, I have just shared a basic list of them. Here are the things you do in a trade show 3 months before. Here's what you do 3 weeks before. Here's what you do the 3 days you're there. And this is the list of the things you do for the 3 weeks after. And I mean, listen, we did that. We created that system one time. Now, I'm not saying the system is perfect for every trade show. For example, you might be going to that trade show and doing a different booth. You might be doing, oh, we're going to have a photo booth there for them, or we're going to do this interactive something. Okay, that's 1 or 2 items you're going to change on a checklist of about 78 items. I'd rather have that 78 item checklist go over into my project management system, copy it, bring it over, and now assign the 78 different tasks to people and say to someone, hey, by the way, we're not doing 1, 2, and 3 because this one's a little bit different. Do you want to create 78 items, or do you want to take 78 and take 3 off? That is a much better approach. And this is the huge takeaway I wish people would take. You don't have to have a little bird marketing for this, is just saying, make your dumb checklist. We do it electronically and everything. And yeah, it has bells and whistles. But in the end, the focus is not on the bells and whistles. The focus is on the simplicity of it. We do this thing. We go spend so much money, going to Munich and going to R&R, or going to SMR or going to where, whatever it is, the money is just falling out of companies' pockets with no accountability to what are the goals and how do those goals and how do those actions fit into the original strategy for the company's sales and marketing. And so when there's not that accountability, guess what? If that show doesn't go well, blame Susan. She went and did that show. So that's pressure on a person.
Right.
We shouldn't be putting a pressure on a person. We say, well, Susan ran that program exactly as we wanted her to do it. And that system didn't work. We shouldn't be doing those things. So next time we go to an event, Susan should do these things differently. And so we put the pressure on the system to produce the results. And we ask the system, what is wrong with this system that is not, we're not getting the money, the ROI back from this show? Well, the answer may be eventually that it's, that show is not a good use of your time or money. But we can't tell that when we keep blaming a Susan and not blaming the system.
This is what I love about this podcast that I get to do here is I go off in directions with guests that I absolutely never expected. And I did not think the greatest takeaways from this conversation was going to be educating people about the importance of process and relating that to alleviating a lot of the stress and pressures that people are under and making work much more efficient and effective. But I really appreciate you taking us there, because it's clearly something not that you just advise clients to do, but you are clearly living by that every day.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing about process and systems, is that it is the only thing that you can tie directly to profit. And it works equally as well when you're a tiny, tiny company of 1 or 2 people to, I work with companies that, have 5,000 employees. Process and systems scale. And it's amazing. You look back, 5 years. I think about processes and systems that I put in place 5 years. There's systems to our systems now. And it is a part of the beauty. And people look at us a lot of time. How did you grow so fast? How did you do this? And of course, we're connected with Kristen Luck. I have this conversation with her at Scale House all the time. How do people don't realize that it's not always the magic of this one person, this dynamic leader, this, fine, they can think that about me, but I'm telling you, it's not that. It's because I have a team that is sold out to processes and systems and about scaling us in a way that makes sense for our business, and a way that they are not under the gun. They get to come and work at a place that they're not going to be under pressure, that they get to what we call work your work job, not your worth job. We're not having referendums on, somebody's value as a person. We're having referendums on the value of the system that we put in place.
I think that's terrific. What project management system do you use, by the way?
Well, we built our entire IP called SOAR and we built it on Trello. And so we don't own Trello. We never created Trello. I'm good friends with the people at Trello, but we did that, and it actually ended up getting bought out by Atlassian because we chose it for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's free to the client, and it's free for a lot of people up to a certain point. So any kind of a small company could use it without, again, take Little Bird off the table. Trello will solve your problems. You can learn it in about 5 minutes, and it's free. Now, you want to create more than 10 boards, and you want to do all kinds of other stuff. It's, it goes up from there, but it is not expensive for a solution. You're talking about, I think, $12 a person a month or something. But it is absolutely built to scale. And it is absolutely built for organization. And it is absolutely built for accountability. We have a stand-up meeting every morning. People can tell if their face is on a card, a task, a checklist, anything, and it is past due, they are accountable to their own, peers for that. And so it is a system that absolutely helps us run a very, very efficient, very tight ship. So we built it on Trello, and so our source system lives on that. And, we just shared that board. And then for marketing automation, we are a HubSpot shop. So, for total accountability into a dashboard, really being able to understand where sales and marketing are going, that's our number one choice. We do not have every client on that. That's not the solution for every client. So our source system bends around the client's needs and the client's goals. But in general, we always have Trello no matter what. That's where all of our projects live. But beyond that, then it really depends on what other systems we're bringing in to customize a plan that's going to work for the company. And just kind of, give a little bit of why would you do something differently? Some companies come to us because they're desperate for profit. Some people come to us because they're desperate and hungry for systems. And they're like, look, our goal is not necessarily to even make profit on this. Our goal is to finally get freaking organized. Can you do that for us? We just have so many, we don't even know what question to ask yet. It's so chaotic. Okay, that's great. We can do that. But some of them come to us and say, we're amazing. Sales are great. We need to be prepared for the next downturn. And then lastly, some come because they say, yeah, things are fine, but we want to sell in 5 years. And we know that where we're at right now does not make us the most attractive. Can you come in and help us, create seal leaks all over the place? Let's seal the leaks so that we're incredibly attractive 5 years from now to be purchased.
I will tell you, you are not the average marketing agency.
Can I quote you on that?
Yeah, by what you talk about and the fact that you look so far beyond what most would think of as, quote, marketing. And you clearly realize that marketing touches every aspect of the organization internally and externally. But I talk to marketing agencies all the time, and nobody ever really goes in this direction to this depth, but it's so well-rounded and really helps a lot. I mean, it's as much operations as it is, outbound marketing. But when operations isn't aligned around marketing and sales and lead gen, and all they think about are processes to keep the lights on, an organization can never scale.
Right. At the heart of it, Dave, I'm an entrepreneur. And so I look at these problems, and some of them are pretty wicked problems we got to, untangle. But at the end, I know what we're trying to do. I am motivated for, number one, making profit. There's no other reason that should be number one than you hire an agency than to eventually bring you profit. Maybe that's not the first goal for the first year. Like I said, people come with a few other things, but they're unraveling that chaos in order to eventually make profit. So number one is the profitability. And then number two is, a better way of coming to work, doing things that is more honoring to employees, doing things that are more honoring to your end user, and developing something that it's worthwhile to be working at. We only get one life, one crack at this, and I want to be doing something of value to people. So, those things have to, we have to set whatever we're doing, marketing. I don't care if we're building a bike. I don't care if we're, doing mergers and acquisitions. I don't care if we're speaking at conferences. I don't care what you're doing in your life. The takeaway you can from this, are we putting it on a system that is bringing more value into something that you want to show up for, every day? And that is a mindset that I have. And I want to have these amazing conversations with clients. I can't always solve all the problems. We end up in some deep conversations about things of what I can't solve their operational problems, but I can, maybe infect them with some different mindsets to help them see how they are connected.
Well, I love the direction that this conversation went in. I think we're going to deliver a ton of value to those who give us some of their precious time to listen to the show. So I thank you for that. Before I let you go, I have a few lightning round questions for you.
Okay, the pressure's on.
So I know you're very well traveled, and you also love eating your husband's bread. But aside from sitting down to a big loaf of your husband's bread, if you could snap your fingers and have dinner at any restaurant in the world tonight, where would you end up?
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of pressure. And then I was thinking, I was going in one direction, then you said dinner. I would probably be deep in the heart of maybe a Moroccan Medina and have a dinner party with friends where, we have a chef, who creates maybe a traditional Moroccan stew that we're all, eating communally. And, to me, it's like the whole thing. It's not about a specific menu per se, although there needs to be cilantro in this very good stew. But this idea of like coming together and just a great night of wine and savory food and a big table. And I think a Moroccan evening would be well in order. I could do that. I could leave and do that tonight.
That is the first time that answer has even remotely been given. Not only the type of food, but the notion. I mean, you are completely true to yourself. It's, the fact that you're really thinking more about who you're with and what you're all doing, and what you're eating is secondary. But just getting those people around the table, food you eat with your hands, just rolling up your sleeves and getting into it together.
Absolutely. The food and wine only taste as good as the company you're having it with.
So building upon that, again, I know you're very well traveled and you've had an eclectic life and been all over the place. Is there somewhere you haven't been to that's on your bucket list where you'd love to get to next?
Hands down, Vietnam and Laos. I want to go there so badly. I want to be uncomfortable in, I don't know, I couldn't even possibly begin with the language there. It's a culture I don't understand. Like I said, I'm a cultural anthropologist, but also I'm just so wanting to subject, or what do I say, my kids to that and get them to just see something just so outside of our world, and just to be able to have these moments you get unexpected, that you just see a beauty in a very deeply, radically different life that we have. And I love those kinds of moments where you're just so stripped of everything that you know, and you can just be present. And I want that for me, but I want that for my kids. I know my husband feels the same way, and that's just a beautiful area that I'm just been dying to go.
So my last question for you is, as much as you love what you do, if you could try your hand at any other career, what else do you think you would really enjoy doing that's completely different from what you do today?
Oh, if we could, tomorrow my husband and I would be rally race car drivers. And I would be I don't want to drive. I don't want to drive. I want to be the co-pilot. I'm great at maps. I'm an amazing navigator. I want the adventure. Everything that happens when you break down and it all goes wrong is just the moments that life is about. And
you have the most interesting answers to these questions. I have to tell you.
Now, if we couldn't do that, I think we would probably want to sail around the world. We're big sailors, and we'd like to be bigger. We do as much as we can in the world that we have. But I'd love to work for like a Volvo Ocean Race or something like that. I'd even do their marketing. So put that out there. Anybody who works with anybody related to Volvo Ocean Race, absolutely. I want to take over their marketing and work day in and day out in that industry. So, but yeah, I think that'd be super fun. I love the more I hang out with my husband, the more I like him, and 26 years and counting, I think we're doing okay. And that kind of adventure sounds amazing to me.
I agree with you. Sounds like a ton of fun. Well, Priscilla, thank you so much for joining us today, taking us in surprising directions. Really, this is all you talk about. Content marketing is all about helping and delivering value, and that's the only reason we do this show. Is we want to try to help, and we want to try to enlighten people and give them some curious things to think about. And you have completely embodied that for us. So thank you so much for joining us and giving us some of your time.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And thanks for making it so fun.